let's pick up right where we just left off in the last conversation. Public opinion, is that truly changing? I believe I've seen Gallup polls where the death penalty was the least popular back in the middle of the last century. Where are we now?
Well, actually, we're at a 40-year low in terms of public support for the death penalty. So, since 1972, in the Gallup poll, although it's still a support for the death penalty in theory, I think what's really changed is that there's now a sentence of life without parole. And so when Gallup has asked that question, the public's about evenly split, about 48% each.
So what are
death
other
penalty.
So what are you seeing in other states? We talked exclusively about Missouri almost so far. What are you seeing elsewhere?
I think it's correct what I heard earlier that actually the death penalty is being used a lot less compared to the 1990s. And that's true in Missouri, it's true around the country, it's true in Texas. A 75% drop in death sentences. There were 80 last year. Back in the 90s, there were 300 a year. Same with executions, they're down about 50%. Death row is smaller. And now we've had 6 states in the past 6 years abolish the death penalty. So that's added to the number of states without the capital punishment. And that's a big change because nothing was changing in that area for many years. And now states like New Hampshire are getting ready to vote on it this year, too.
Texas seems to get a lot of the press when you're talking about states with the death penalty, but we've seen Missouri at the top of several different lists. Can you help us make sense of some of the data around Missouri? Or should we be thinking of ourselves more like Texas?
Well, to begin with, there was a time when Missouri wasn't having many executions. I think when it readopted the death penalty, it still took till 1989 before its first execution. So cases were building up, as was pointed out. The people who are being executed today in Missouri, and there's been 5 in the past 5 months, are from cases of 20 years ago. Currently, Missouri is only sentencing about 2 people a year to death. So if you're only sentencing a couple people a year to death, you're not going to have 10 executions a year later on. So I think what we have is this historical shift here. Death sentences are down in Missouri, but executions are from older cases. And of course, that's true. Texas is having more executions than death sentences. That will change.
Okay, so looking at trends like that, look into your crystal ball for us. What do you see happening?
Well, the death penalty was carried out in only 9 of our 50 states last year. So it's a dwindling or perhaps less relevant punishment than it used to be. But that doesn't get rid of it completely. I mean, states like Missouri, states like Texas and Florida are not going to abolish it. Where it hits the crooks is when the Supreme Court looks at it and says, this is becoming so unusual, so rare, as to be outside of our standards of decency. I don't think that's going to happen, anytime soon. But if we get to a majority of states, as 18 states have abolished it, 3 states in the West have declared a moratorium, more states are voting this year to abolish it. If we get to the point where most of our states don't have it, and even those that have it hardly use it, the question then will arise: is it now cruel and unusual, even though a few states are carrying it out?
Richard,